Welcome to the latest episode of the Weekly Hijack.
Hi.
Jack.
Go.
Your favorite spin-off podcast from Derailed Trains of Thought.
Yes, the only spin-off podcast from Derailed Trains of Thought.
So far.
Again,
we have got 2 episodes of Lost tonight. We've got a full house of Hayden's, and a Brianna. For one last night until we lose her to Walking Dead for a little bit.
One more week.
One more week.
She's looking forward to the moth.
Okay, good. Well, first up tonight we have White Rabbit.
White Rabbit.
The first Jack episode, the first official Jack episode, and an important episode. More of an important episode than I remembered until we got into it.
Yeah. I didn't remember much of it except him beating up the coffin at the end. That was my main memory of this episode.
I was thinking I think a lot of these season 1s is actually only my second time watching these because because I got into Lost during season 3 and I had heard enough about what happened before that it felt like I had to go back right away. I think it was like in between seasons 5 and 6 I started watching a bunch of them on ABC.com. Yeah, very late in the game because, like I said, I read Doc Jensen or Lostpedia. I got what I needed to know, essentially. So good episode, I thought. Any other before Nick and I dive into
initial thoughts, anyone?
Zach's asleep already, it looks like.
Yep. All right, then.
Wait, I do have something.
Yeah, go for it.
I was wondering, because later we find that the Man in Black takes on Jack's dad's form.
Mm-hmm.
So in this episode, is this the first instance of the smoke monster Man in Black trying to contact Jack, or is it just a hallucination, like Locke suggests?
I'm not completely sure. Well, I'm trying to remember, because we know that he does do his dad. In season 4 and 5, he runs around his dad a little bit.
I'm pretty sure we can assume that's at least why his dad is missing from his coffin, because apparently Man in Black inhabits bodies, and so... Yeah,
like Yemu does that for Echo's brother.
Yeah.
His body disappears. Mm-hmm. Except, I've always wanted, and we'll get to it in season 5, why Locke's body doesn't disappear when he takes Locke's form. But that's a whole different deal.
Actually, that's a good point. I mean, I guess...
We can deal with that when we get season 5 mumbo-jumbo about...
that whole thing is pretty weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume that the smoke monster would take his body to kind of mess with Jack a lot, but then I don't know why, in retrospect, I don't know why he would have left Locke's body in the coffin.
Well, I think... Yeah, well, first time you see this, you could be either way. It could be really magical island stuff, or it could be hallucination. I tend towards it being the first time, just because I think that's what the Man in Black actually says.
I was trying to remember, isn't there also an episode where Jack has, like, his wound gets infected or something? I thought I remember Jack going through, like, some fever type stuff. Maybe I'm confusing that with somebody else.
I'd be fine with it being a hallucination, honestly, because it makes as much sense in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I do think that there's some Man in Black because they established that at some point later on, I think. My memory's a little hazy on something.
In 5 seasons, Natasha. What do you think?
I just wonder, because what I don't see yet, I don't remember what the purpose would have been for him to contact him that way. I mean, nothing comes of it, really, just in Jack's head.
It does lead him to the water.
And to the caves, which they spend some time at the caves, but
I don't know what good that does for his plan.
How does that benefit the Man in Black?
Yeah, I don't know.
Good question. I don't know. We'll save that.
Yes, we'll come back to this episode after several more podcasts.
Before season 6 started, people were using that scene between Jack and Locke in various like fake promos and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very interesting discussion they have between sort of like, I'm crazy, and like, well, the Magic Island thing, I've looked in the heart of the island, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Locke's his best version of like Guru Locke in this episode.
It's true. And, as much as we were talking last time about how Locke was sort of putting on a show, he actually gives some pretty good advice, overall. He's a little off, a little misguided because of the whole, the island is special, but it's not like quite as beautiful as Locke thinks it is at this point. But overall, it's pretty sound advice. He told Jack to kind of get his act together before he, try to take on leading again.
Locke has a lot of mystic qualities about him that are good. I mean, like he has this sense of destiny that he also gives him good advice when he's not obsessed with it.
In an episode like this, you can almost sort of get a glimpse of what it might have been if Jack and Locke hadn't been at odds with each other the whole time. Yeah. Maybe Locke could have been kind of the guru and Jack could have been the practical one, and maybe if they had kind of been able to find some more common ground, maybe it wouldn't have been quite as But obviously, the Man in Black and Jacob, their whole fight is sort of mirrored in Locke and Jack.
There's a lot, yeah. I mean, obviously, all Lost has numerous repetitions of repeated things, such as daddy issues, which were introduced full scale this episode.
I do have to agree with Zach earlier. Man, his dad gives Jack some terrible advice.
He's the worst parent. I mean, not just when he's older, but always. He's been a bad dad. He was not good at all.
I mean, not as bad as Locke's dad.
Well, yeah, he didn't throw it.
He kind of takes the cake
of terrible parenting, yeah. But I mean, okay, so your kid gets beat up because he's trying to defend someone from another bully. I mean, isn't that something that you would commend your son for?
Well, not even that, but it's in the end, don't be a hero because you don't have what it takes. I mean, it's that's a horrible.
This is twice his size. Yeah. Of course he's not going to win.
Well, and it's I guess I was wondering though, because he said when you fail, you don't have what it takes. So does that mean Jack just is a bad loser? It was still very odd advice.
He's a pansy. He can't get back up and do it again or whatever.
And Jack does have this hero complex where he does not deal well with
being wrong.
With being wrong.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so does Locke.
Yeah, I mean, they're a lot the same in many ways.
Yeah.
They've just worked it out differently.
Yeah.
But we had the first full-scale example of his hero complex. His, what it comes to a head, what is it, season 4, where he's trying to do his own, take out his own appendix.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're like, what are you doing?
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, okay.
He was feverish.
Okay, that's way later.
You know what? It was interesting. Yeah. Completely off topic, but I saw Charlie's tattoo in his arm. It said, what was it? Living is easy with your eyes closed, or something along the lines. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was interesting with the open eye thing that we have going in Lost all the time.
Yeah,
it's almost they're kind of forcing people to look at.
Right. I think Dominic Monaghan already had that.
Well, I know. Well, it was nice.
Yeah, no, it fits. I'm sure you're that's cool. I'm sure Charlie would have that. See if you felt this. If you thought this was as jarring as I sort of felt, because had the whole scene with Jack smashing up his father's casket, and next scene he comes back. Next time we see Jack, he's back at the wreckage, giving everyone his big hero. We got to live together, die alone. What happened? Did he just taking out his anger on that just calm him down?
I thought the same thing. I was like, the whole thing led to him finding the thing, but it didn't show how that helped him. It kind of just showed more of his issues.
Yes.
But then it comes back like fixed, and you're like, wait, why did that help? I mean, it just didn't. I agree. I thought it was a little jarring too.
Okay.
I guess no, and I can completely see that. I guess the idea probably behind it is that Locke said figure out where to go and then come back and lead. So he'd already had that leading thing here, and he's like, okay, the dad things come to nothing. I don't know what's up here, but now I'm going to just kind of.
I guess I can see that.
I mean, emotionally, I think you're right. It's kind of jarring. Now, there's probably a commercial break between them, which probably helpful.
Yeah, possibly. And I mean, and
it's very convenient ending.
Yeah.
After all the ambiguity.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could see the wheels in Jack's mind turning when he saw the fountain and the caves and all that kind of stuff. Especially since Locke had told him that they need water and all that.
Maybe he was going to do the water, and then he comes in the middle of the fight. He's like, okay, I'm sick of this. We're going to just deal with it.
That could be.
And Boone.
Yeah, Boone is as useless as ever.
He means well, I guess.
But he fails so utterly.
I own a business. But we did get Jack's catchphrase of "live together, die alone."
Yes, which became an important theme for the castaways in general.
It is really amazing how much this episode.
Unfortunately, a lot of the castaways would die together as well. But every time I think of the castaways banding together, then I think of the others just shooting them with fire arrows. I'm like, well, that was. I'm sorry, but
Good luck.
The writers, I felt never I felt that was a terrible ending. I mean, it was convenient at the time, but like it just kind of makes all this, feel good Castaway stuff feel kind of empty now, to a degree.
But yeah, this Sword Jack episode dovetails very well into like the last couple episodes of Lost, with the caskets delivered, and they all come together, and it's all happy new after age sort of stuff.
I mean, and at this point, you kind of have to imagine, they've had like a couple very seminal episodes in a row here. You're like, man, if I was the audience, I'd be like, wow, where's going to be what's a normal episode of Lost? Like every week is kind of different.
And then like we just reread. You sent me that the article about Damon Lindelof. When he found out the show went off, well, he felt like he wanted to die, but he's like, we can't keep writing this show. They'd already written, like, I probably only about this many episodes when the premieres got.
And they're like, now, what next? Yeah, okay. So we've been talking about this episode probably a little too long, so we'll pause here and get into next one, which will be House of the Rising Sun.
Which is a good song.
We just finished House of the Rising Sun, episode, what are we on, 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Yeah, 6. So the first Sun and Jin episode.
Yes. General impressions.
Did you say general impressions?
Yes, some general impressions, please.
More of a low-key episode this time.
You know what? It's interesting, and I was while we were watching, I was thinking, it would be very interesting to be able to watch Lost again, not knowing everything. But even knowing, all the remembering a lot, not all the details, but a lot of the backstories and stuff. For 6 episodes, it's amazing how different every backstory and stuff is. I mean, going into it, you're like, Sun Jin's story is like, what? He's like some sort of hired gun?
Hitman?
And locks and they're like everything's completely new every time. They don't seem to relate except the bad father thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. It's the Sun and Jin episodes always have. Well, usually they have both of them in it, but it's typically a little one-sided. Like in this case, it's mainly Sun's perspective. We don't know a lot of what was going on in Jin's head during time. We don't know why they're even in Australia.
And it's interesting for very small flashbacks. You get a lot of story in there. All you see him washing blood off his hand, and you don't know my father, and you're like, all right, this sounds really bad. You're going to get some details later.
Mm-hmm. But there's a lot that we don't know even yet. They kept a lot unsaid.
And we got Adam and Eve this episode.
Mm-hmm. On a less mythical note, I think this is the first episode I really noticed. Obviously Jack and Kate have always had chemistry, but this is the first time it was like, chemistry.
Even Hurley noticed. So yeah, there's no triangle yet. It just
no triangle. Sawyer is trying for it.
I don't remember anything what happens to this cave thing. They don't stay there that long, do they?
I think it's mainly. I think they're mainly gone by a second. I think part of the thing is the hatch kind of replaces it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think that's a big part of it.
I can't remember.
Well, because when they have access to the hatch and that gives them access to water and stuff, so they don't really need the key. It just kind of they don't really talk about it much. I think it just kind of dies off.
A lot of nice, Sun speaking English for the first time. You watched it for 6 weeks now. If you're old school, watching TV, and suddenly what,
Mm-hmm.
And they set you up a little bit with flashbacks. Have you taken your lessons?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's very.
That's true. I forgot that she had said something to Michael first because I was thinking this because at some point she like blurts something out in front of them all and they're like whoa, and even Jen's like whoa, like dude whoa.
And we got the Charlie Locke relationship going.
Yeah,
kind of
his
interesting. Locke takes a lot of people under his wing.
He does. I was just thinking. He's like, Charlie, I guess, is kind of his first protege, and then later Boone becomes his protege for a little while.
Thank goodness it was Boone first.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to remember. It's not. I think it's season 2, Fire Plus Water, the one where Locke basically cleans Charlie's clock.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's
our resident Charlie expert here, Brianna.
Which I don't particularly like that episode, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we haven't heard much from the elders tonight.
Getting complicated. you talk about future episodes, which I've seen most of them, and I think, wow, this is really going to get deep soon. I don't remember that. and it's going to get way too complicated.
Yeah. It's crazy, the whole Adam and Eve thing. I mean, that's something that it became very kind of obsessed over in like Lost fan communities, but they don't even really bring it up on that show all that much.
No.
Not until like the very...
It's just there. And
toward the very end.
I'm always curious to know how much they actually knew at that point about... I figured they probably knew they were just some sort of early inhabitants of the island. I think they'd already kind of assumed that.
Right.
And if you see the black and white again, if they set up... It's interesting, that article you and I read, they said, if it had ended after the first season, they would have just had some big battle between them and the
right away.
survivor and the smoke monster, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd always kind of set up this...
That was sort of their trap door, to use a J. Michael Straczynski thing.
Yeah.
Like, if we have to end a season early, this is what we'll end with.
And so they just we have time, so we'll just wait a while and then do it later.
Yeah.
And so, I keep referring to season 6, but season 1 and 6 are very much parallels in many ways.
That's true.
And actually, I think 5 and 2 sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of
the timey-wimey stuff. Yeah, that's true. They do the whole series kind of bookends itself pretty well if you want to look at it that way. Yeah. But we'll dig into that later.
But I've always loved Sun Jin episodes. I've always really enjoyed them.
Yes.
And I'm starting to remember how much Mike was a very interesting character. He was there for, he had a lot of stuff going on early on, and then...
Mm-hmm. He tends to get overshadowed a lot by Waltz later on.
Yeah.
But at least in terms of how people remember him.
Yeah.
But there was certainly more to him initially. Anything else, Deb?
No.
Gave you the option. Okay, well I think that's sums it up. Kind of a downer. After the rousing "Live Together, Die Alone," I kind of splitting the camp apart.
Live Together, Die Alone, or die in 2 separate camps.
Yeah. Something like that. All right. Well, next time we'll have a Charlie and a Sawyer episode.
All right.
So that'll be something to look forward to. Until then, this is Tim.
This is Nick.
And everyone else in the Hayden household. Be sure to check us out on Derailed Trains of Thought.blogspot.com. Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes.
Yes, and our actual blog.
Yes, the actual blog. Yeah, that's...
our actual...
yes, their actual podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. New episode of that coming out very soon. Yeah, something. All right. Good night, folks.
Bye.